Greetings, boys and girls. I'm coming to you live from our usual studio, and I'm reaching to you in the comfort of your sitting room. This time around, presenting to you yet another lesson. But before we get to another lesson or the lesson we are meant to do today, I want to bring to your attention that every time that we get here, we start with the correction of our previous activity that we give. Now, here today, I'm starting with the correction for activity 25. That is activity 4, lesson 25, that was conducted by Mr. Mobile, and this was about Great Trek. So we have questions that we gave you. Question number 1 was saying, what was Great Trek? And I expect you to have defined Great Trek as being the massive movement of the Boers from Cape Colony to the interior of South Africa. You can also define Great Trek as being the northwards movement of the Boers from the Cape Colony. So, having handled question number 1, if you got that right, then you can give yourself a tick. We get to question number 2, which says, write any 2 causes of Great Trek. We are looking at the reasons as to why the Boers had to move from the Cape Colony that they established to the interior of South Africa. And among them include issues like introduction of English as an official language by the British, to the abolition of slave trade. These people had embarked on enslaving Africans, and when the British came, because it was one of the resolutions of the Berlin Conference that colonial masters were to abolish slave trade and slavery in their territory. So when the British came and found the Dutch or the Boers engaging themselves in slavery and slave trade, they had to abolish it. This angered the Boers and prompted them to move. Another one was introduction of British currency, which also became a problem that they saw and prompted them to move. Another one was over-taxation by the British over the Boers. The Boers felt uncomfortable that they were being taxed by the British, and the taxation was not fair enough and prompted them to move. Another reason was that the Boers wanted to protect their independence. When the Boers established their first colony, that is the Cape Colony, they were the ones managing and ruling. So that means administration of the Cape Colony was in their hands. But now when the British came to take over their control, the Boers felt cheated and said no, they never wanted to lose their independence, so they chose to move to the interior of South Africa. Question number 3, boys and girls, it is saying, mention any 2 states that were formed after the Great Trek. Yes, when the Boers moved to the interior of South Africa, they founded new places which we are calling states, and among them we had places like Natal. Today Natal is called KwaZulu-Natal. If you went to South Africa, you would still find it there, and you will not get it being called Natal as it used to be, but it is called KwaZulu-Natal. We have another state that was formed, that is Orange Free State. The Orange Free State today is only called the Free State. If you went to South Africa, you would meet this. And then third one was Transvaal. Transvaal means across the Vaal River. So when these people crossed the Vaal River, they established their state, and that was the Transvaal. The next question, which is question number 4, is saying, how did Great Trek negatively affect South Africans? We are looking at the blacks in South Africa. How did the Great Trek negatively affect them? So we are saying, 1, it led to intertribal wars between Africans and the Dutch. When the Boers moved to the interior of South Africa. The interior was not vacant. The interior was occupied by the South Africans, the blacks. So now when these people went there, because they had to take up possession of the areas there, the Africans did not give up. They had to fight. So there was constant war between the Africans and then the Boers. Two, we are saying Africans lost their land. Africans lost their land. Why did the Africans lose their land? They lost their land because they were using inferior weapons to defend their territory. The weapons that were used by the Boers were superior or more superior to the ones used by the Africans. So that made them to lose, and eventually their land was taken over by the Dutch. Three, it led to displacement of Africans. When Africans lost in the battle for their land, definitely they were forced to move away for fear of their lives. So these people were made to move, and when they moved, we now say they got displaced and they were moved further north to other places that were unproductive. We now move to question number 5, and question number 5 says, mention any 2 minerals discovered in South Africa. After the Great Trek, what minerals got discovered by these people, the Boers? And these minerals were just lying there redundant, but the movement of the Boers to the interior of South Africa led to the discovery of these minerals. And these minerals include gold, and gold got discovered at a place called Witwatersrand. And another mineral is diamonds. So diamonds also got discovered, and it is majorly up to date mined at a place called Kimberley. Now the last question, boys and girls, is saying, give any 2 reasons why the Dutch chose to settle in Cape Colony. Why did the Dutch choose to settle in Cape Colony? Reason being, presence of fertile soil. We get to know that yes, the Boers we are talking of is a term in Dutch that means farmers. So being farmers, these people chose to settle at the Cape Colony because of the presence of fertile soil. 2, the climate at the Cape Colony was cool, favorable for human settlement. So these are basically factors or reasons as to why the Dutch chose to settle at Cape Colony. Thank you for the correction. So now I will be introducing you to yet another lesson that we'll be presenting today. Thank you.